It is time to talk about the next mainline Sonic game. It's been about 3 years since the release of Sonic Frontiers, and we've heard nothing in regards to what the next big Sonic game will be. And to be honest, I feel like we're getting close to that announcement. Sonic's 35th anniversary is next year, and as far as we know, there are no Sonic releases coming in 2026. Supposedly. But let's keep it real, SEGA is not going to miss Sonic's 35-year anniversary. I think it's safe to say that there will at least be an announcement or some kind of reveal coming in 2026. We're gonna get something, like it'd be crazy if we didn't. So I wanted to make this video to talk about all the things I want from the next 3D Sonic game. Feel free to share your thoughts and beliefs and things you want from the next game down below. I will be reading comments, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe with the bell so you stay notified of my future content. Anyways, with that said, let's get right into it. Sonic Frontiers was one of my favorite Sonic games of all time. I love this game. And much further, I love the open zone, and I truly believe that this is the future of Sonic. And it looks like Sonic Team agrees with me, so it's safe to say that the next Sonic game will feature the open zone formula. Now, with that said, I feel like everyone here kinda agrees that the open zone has some changes that needs to be made. First of all, we gotta stop with all this lazy automation that Sonic Frontiers had. Almost every platforming challenge in that game involved the player jumping on a rail or using some minimal jump inputs to obtain a memory token. This is boring. Like, sure, I will admit that stringing these small platforming segments together are pretty fun, but individually, none of the platforming in Sonic Frontiers is engaging at all. And I feel like that should never really be the case with a platformer. When I think of an example of the open zone being better, I think of a game like Banjo-Kazooie, but much larger. In Banjo-Kazooie, you had actual challenges and unique interactions with the level to actually obtain collectibles. Here's a good example of what I'm talking about. In the first level of the game, there's an ape that throws oranges at you. And if you get the ape to throw an orange at all of the pressure plates, you get a Jiggy. But then you can also climb the tree, grab an orange, and bring it to this monkey over here to get a second Jiggy, thus stringing two activities together to get two different collectibles. Little unique puzzles like that is what I want. I want every single platforming challenge to have some kind of significance and objective to it to obtain the collectible. If it's just another automated sequence where you jump on a rail, that's boring. Nobody wants to do that. But if you had to do some kind of quest or help out a villager or use your momentum to get up higher onto a stage, I feel like that would be a lot more entertaining. Of course, not every collectible is going to land or be super important. Even Mario Odyssey is filled with half of the collectibles being filler. And that's okay, especially in Sonic's case, because I think some of the appeal of Sonic Frontiers is the fact that it's so ADHD to its core. You can jump from one collectible to the next within 15 seconds, and I kinda like that. Filler collectibles have a place in this game. It's okay to have some filler. However, the problem is that you can't make every single collectible filler like how it is in Sonic Frontiers, or else you will make the game unreplayable, which is a common issue with Sonic Frontiers. Many people do not want to replay this game because there's just not much bringing you back to it. The platforming is the same every time. There's no skill to be had. So this is what I would personally do if I was in the director chair and designing this game. I would keep the same low effort platforming scattered throughout all the map with the new memory tokens or whatever the new collectible is. And when you grab those new collectibles, they open up new cutscenes and dialogue that you can have with other characters. Similar to how you could use the memory tokens to open up dialogue with Amy or Tails or Knuckles or Sage. Stuff like that. It would just open up cutscenes. That's it. I don't want any of the filler platforming to be tied to the actual progression of the game. I feel like that should be extra stuff that you can do as a player to unlock more stuff. But I think there should also be another collectible that is solely based on the progression of the game. A collectible that opens up the next world, or a collectible that opens up the Chaos Emeralds. And for those collectibles, I feel like the platforming challenges should be much more significant and require a much more input from the player. Basically, these collectibles are the same idea of like the puzzles in Banjo-Kazooie. You do some kind of challenge, help out a villager, do some creative platforming, and you get a collectible. These are a lot more challenging and a lot more engaging, of course. I feel like we should have 2 different collectibles, one for filler and one for the main objective, because it keeps the same ADHD platforming that Sonic Frontiers had, while also giving you some engaging platforming that you can focus on. And also, when you're replaying the game and you don't really care about seeing all the cutscenes, you can just focus on progressing through the game, thus going for the main collectibles. Because to be honest, whenever I replay Sonic Frontiers, I do not rewatch the cutscenes, so you know, I don't really care about that. Regardless, the whole point of all of this is that we need more engaging platforming in the next Sonic game, because that's what causes you to replay these games. And you know what is the best type of platforming that they can do for this game to make it endlessly replayable? I'm so fucking tired of talking about momentum. I'm starting to lose it. Momentum-based platforming needs to return. We need Sonic Team to go play Red Mountain and Emerald Coast and Speed Highway from Sonic Adventure, study those levels and all of its pathways, and then recreate that level design in the open zone. There is so much potential with momentum that could make this game so endlessly replayable. That's why we still come back to the speed stages from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. The momentum adds so much creativity to the platforming. It allows you to reach so many different pathways. It's so replayable. I have no clue why Sonic Team has just refused to ever return to it. And look, if you don't want to have momentum in the same way that Sonic Adventure had it, you can still add it in some kind of creative way. Imagine all the platforming you can do with slope physics and rolling down terrain. As a developer, you should be amazed by all of the potential that this game has. Every time a new Mario game comes out, they do everything to try every single idea in that game. They throw so many gimmicks at the wall, they try so many different types of platforming, they just throw everything in one game. There is so much you can do with Sonic and the idea of platforming with a fast character that's momentum based. Like, there's so many ideas to pull from that. And to be honest, I also think the boost should be scrapped or at least reworked. I'm perfectly fine with the boost returning, but maybe it should be a reward for getting momentum, kind of like Sonic Advance 2. After reaching a certain speed, you enter a boosting mode that is much faster and more powerful. That kind of makes sense. I feel like that's a lot more rewarding. But let's be honest, guys, we just had Shadow Generations and that game was wildly successful, so that they are not getting rid of the boost anytime soon. But that's okay. Momentum and the boost can coexist. Just add some creative platforming and some slopes for me to boost jump off of, and I'm satisfied. It'll be Sonic Adventure all over again. And that's all I want. But hold on, let's talk about the boost for a minute. I love the idea of cyberspace. The idea of there being Sonic levels that you can find in the open zone is brilliant. However, what was not brilliant was the gameplay of those stages, because that was just a downright violation on my hands that touched the controller. If the new Cyberspace stages are like Shadow Generations stages, we're back in business. Shadow Generations had some of the best level design we have ever seen in the series, and it's the most fun we've had with a boosting Sonic game since Sonic Generations. It proves that Sonic Team is capable of making good levels. Something I don't want to return are reused environments. I am so tired of Green Hill Zone, Chemical Plant Zone, and sky. And I'm also tired of literally anything else being reused. I don't even want Sonic Adventure levels being reused, Sonic Unleashed levels. I don't want any games levels in this game. Oh, but Mario reuses the Mushroom Kingdom in every game for like 60 seconds. The rest of the content in those games are new, unless we're talking about the new Soup games. And in that case, nobody liked it that those games did it either. You load up Sonic Adventure, all new environments. You load up Sonic Adventure 2, all new environments. You load up Sonic Heroes, all new environments. You load up every single game up to Sonic Colors, it's all new environments. Please let us have a completely, keyword completely, new Sonic game. It's not that complicated. With how well recent games have been selling, there is no reason why we can't have a new world. Speaking of which, I think a good art style would be something in between Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Adventure. It's very realistic in plenty of city settings and whatnot, but it's also heavily exaggerated too. You go to Skyscraper Scamper and yeah, it's just New York City, but there's now clouds in the buildings and wacky winding roads. It looks cartoonishly exaggerated. I think that's what a Sonic game should ideally look like. Mainly though, I want a city to be in this game. We have had no cities in Sonic Frontiers. We just had fields, desert, and volcano, but no cities. And I feel like Sonic is known for the city setting. Like, come on, City Escape. Hello? Also, let's bring back humans. They were in Shadow Generations, and they look just fine. Okay. Hot take, I like Sonic Frontiers story. I'm gonna talk about it more in a future video, but I actually really like the direction that Sonic Frontiers story went in. And I also like Ian Flynn. Oh God. Oh, I can feel the judgment already. Personally, I love the fact that Sonic Frontiers feels like an important Sonic game in the Sonic timeline. You got games like Sonic Lost World and Sonic Colors that are very self-contained and don't really change much about the lore of Sonic. But with Frontiers, we're learning more about the origins of the Chaos Emeralds. And we're learning about this mysterious, deadly foe. And I think we should keep the ball rolling on that. I just want big reveals in this game or more progression on the Sonic timeline. I want to learn about Sonic's origins, the origins of the Chaos Emeralds, and just little things like that. When you give us significant lore like you did in Sonic Frontiers, it makes the game feel a lot more important to Sonic than just a new game that released, you know? Alright, so I thought it'd be nice to add a new section to this video where I read your guys' thoughts on today's topic, being the next mainline Sonic game. 0stars12 says, the next mainline game needs to have multiple playable characters, but with their own stories that lead into bigger conflict at the end. They're basically talking about the Sonic Adventure formula of having multiple stories, whether it's Hero, Dark, or just different playable characters with different plot lines. And to be honest, I don't really want this. I think I like the idea of having a consistent one story mode like how we had in Sonic Frontiers. I like the idea of just being able to play from beginning to the end of the game and not have any interruptions to be forced to play a different style of gameplay. I love the adventure games and I love playing the treasure hunting stages and whatnot, but like, I feel like that concept is a little outdated. I think that different play styles and different playable characters should be introduced and made into one story. Because let's be honest here, most people want to play the main Sonic gameplay. They don't want to play with Tails and Knuckles. But I do think like playable characters should return. I mean, we've been asking for it for years, and with Update 3, they finally gave it to us, and I think Update 3 handled it beautifully. Because yeah, it was the same gameplay as Sonic's gameplay, but like you had different controls, different abilities. It changed up the open zone gameplay. I loved the playable characters. And I think Sonic Team knows that, because I doubt they would just make the next Sonic game a solo Sonic game, because why would they make Update 3? Update 3 was a giant experiment. I feel like we're getting playable characters in one way or another. Spidtiz, I think that's how you pronounce it. I either want the combat to be removed or for it to be reworked into a hack and slash game such as Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. I definitely agree with this, because that's something that was a big problem with Sonic Frontiers, is that the combat was a bit too automated. You would press a button or like a combo and then you would just do the combo, and that was it. And after you notice the flaws with the combat, you can't unnotice it. You can't unnotice the fact that you practically cannot lose any battle ever, unless you are literally stupid and you do not have hands. So I do agree, it should definitely be reworked, especially because I think Sonic Team noticed this with Update 3 in Sonic Frontiers, because they wanted to make the game more challenging, and they realized that you can't make a Sonic game more challenging when the combat system is so automated. How do you make stronger or more difficult enemies if you can just defeat every enemy by spamming the stomp? Shade to Fox says, I feel like Sonic moves really slow in Frontiers, and either some kind of boost or base speed or using better better visual work to sell how fast he is would be nice, if that makes any sense. And generally, I think extra time should be given to fix bugs and stuff. I agree 100%. I talked about this in my Shadow Generations video, but I hate this recent trend with boosting Sonic games where the camera is not dynamic at all. In games like Sonic Generations and Sonic Unleashed, when you boost, it would zoom forward, it would zoom out at certain moments and make you feel faster. But in these games, it stays in like one pose and it makes Sonic look like he's not running that fast. I think Cyberspace and Shadow Generations would be a lot better with a better camera. We need the camera to move more. We need it to zoom in. We need different perspectives. Genesis DX says more loops and corkscrews. And I want Sonic to be able to go through them on his own without automation in Frontiers and have it implemented into the actual terrain of the open zone. That would be perfect. Yes, this is such a huge problem with Frontiers art style. Is like, it's just this plain, boring, grassy area with a bunch of rails and unnatural loops. The fact that there wasn't a single loop baked into the environment in any island of Frontiers is ridiculous. And I know it's crazy to ask for this because I know that Sonic Team is not going to do this. I know them. But yeah, we need no automation when going through a loop. Do you know how awesome it would be to be able to spin dash through a loop, and if you didn't have enough speed, you just fall to the bottom of the loop? That's like a punishment for not being fast and good at the game. Overall though, I think the majority of automation should just be completely removed in this game. A Sonic game can be fun with automation. We've seen that with a lot of Sonic games, and I understand that automation will be present to an extent, but I'm tired of using speed boosters to go fast. I feel like you should be able to go fast by either momentum or even boosting, but just jumping on an obstacle course that is predetermined from the beginning is just not that fun. It's not that engaging. Big Drip Mike says better art direction, obviously. Yeah, pretty much. Josh DJX says Chow Garden collectibles. Now, a Chow Garden would only be present if this is the third Sonic Adventure game, and if that's the case, they have a lot to live up to. But I want the Chow Garden back so badly. That was one of the best features of any Sonic game ever. The Chow Garden just gives you endless replayability, gives you a reason to go back to levels, replay them, get rings, get collectibles, and go back to the garden and raise your Chow. I feel like the Chow Garden is perfect for an open zone game because you get to explore. You get to explore the islands for stuff. Maybe even like kill raid bosses for collectibles for Chow. Maybe that's a little too ambitious. This isn't Xenoblade, this is Sonic. But my point is that a Chow Garden would make an open zone game much more replayable. Bradley X2000 says absolutely no 2D sections in the open zone. I realize that 2D is gonna be in the next Sonic game, and look, I'm okay with that. I'm not against 2D sections being in a Sonic game. I'm just tired of 2D. I want a fully 3D Sonic game. And if you're going to put 2D in a game, put it in like the cyberspace stages or the boosting stages. Keep it out of the open zone. And for the love of God, do not give us an island like Chaos Island where the entire open zone is 2D sections. That was miserable, and nobody likes that. I want to know somebody who prefers the 2D sections in Chaos Island. Nobody does, because it's just awkward and just it doesn't make sense to be there. I'm okay with it in boosting levels or cyberspace or whatever it may be. The open world, the open zone, just leave it out of that. All right, for the last one, we have the Junior. He says, everyone's gonna mention the gameplay improvements. For me, I'll just add, I just want CGI cutscenes back, man. Man, I miss the CGI cutscenes, man. They were in every Sonic game until Frontiers, and now they're gone. We had CGI trailers, but no cutscenes, and that kind of sucks. The CGI cutscenes was like a sign of competence. It was to show that this game was a big deal. This was a AAA Sonic game. And with Sonic games selling much better now, I feel like they have the budget for a CGI cutscene. So why not? Why no CGI cutscene? Anyways, with that said, this segment is over. I'll see you guys very soon. I love you guys. Peace out.